Have you ever heard of the invisible gorilla experiment? See, researchers asked people to count basketball passes. When it ended, they asked, "Did you see the gorilla?" Nearly half didn't. See, the gorilla wasn't invisible, but the people's focus, well, that's what made it invisible. And life works very much in the same way. Some people look for problems, others for possibility. Same world, different focus, different future. Welcome to the HypeJack, where we challenge the way you think so that you could change the way you live. I'm Kevin Jack, and every week we unpack the mindsets, habits, and decisions that separate people who stay stuck from the people who build extraordinary lives. If you're new here, the HypeJack is about helping you think differently so you can live intentionally. We believe that your future isn't determined by your circumstances. It's shaped by the choices you make and the person you become. Everything that we teach is built around the 3 I's, and that's identity, influence, and impact, because before you can make an influence, before you can impact, you have to know who you are. And so we're currently in our identity series because identity is the foundation for everything. And so I want you to say this with me. It is what you say it is. We're going to say it again. It is what you say it is. See, most people say it is what it is. No, I disagree. I believe it is what you say it is. Meaning that the meaning you assign to an event often matters more than the event itself. And so today we're going to dive into 3 principles to change your mind, change your perspective, and to get you to proclaim it is what you say it is. So the first principle I want to dive into is that you find what you're looking for. In that experiment, people were told, look for this specific thing. They found that specific thing. The problem was there was something else that they were blind to. But what they were looking for, they found. When they were told to count the basketballs, they were able to do that. And I had seen this actual experiment done in college, and I still didn't really believe it. What made me a believer was one year I had a phenomenal 7th grade team. And there were about 3 teams in our district, in our area, that could even compete. But this was a really quality team. We were led by an exceptional quarterback. To put it in perspective, I had him when he was in 7th and 8th grade. By the time he was in 9th grade, he was playing varsity football. So just to give you an idea of his talent. And so we're going up against, that year, they would end up being the best team. But they have a player who is just next level. Keep in mind they're in 7th grade, but this young man is about 6 foot, 190. The opposing coaching staff, they had sent videos out and posted videos of this young man lifting 185 pounds, 200 pounds, just a pure man child. And so the game comes and we are playing them and we are hyped. They're our rival. We are ready for the game. The first play of the game, their star linebacker lays the biggest hit on our star receiver that I'd ever seen. Big hit. And he smirks at our quarterback. From then on, we call plays. And I'm looking, and as a coach, we have what's called a check with me system, which basically means there's a play called, but you're going to check with the sideline and you can adjust into a different play if need be. But every call I'm giving him is a really good play call. But I notice he's throwing it away. He's going down early. And I can see that his eyes aren't truly on the play because this is just uncharacteristic for him. And he's having what would be the worst game of his life. Of course, we end up losing that game. Blowout. Embarrassing. And so the next day we come into film and we start watching. We start watching each play and breaking it down. And I ask him a question. Hey, where were your eyes at? He says, I was just looking for the linebacker every play. So he knew that we had good play calls. He knew that he had a great skill set. He knew that he had a great supporting cast. But every play, he was focused on that linebacker. I want to ask you, what is the linebacker in your life? What are you focusing on? See, some of us who are creators, you get 10 great comments and you focus on the negative. What is the linebacker in your life? Is it your boss? Is it the job? Right? Is it money? What is the linebacker that's taking your attention from the opportunities? Because that's what happened in that game, is that he was so fearful that the linebacker took away all the different opportunities he had. He had probably 6 or 7 just wide open touchdowns that he could have thrown that would have made him the hero. But instead, he focused on, in his mind, what he perceived as an obstacle and a big negative that he couldn't beat. Right? This week, I want you to think about those things that are taking your attention away from your opportunities. Specifically, ask yourself, what opportunity am I missing because where my attention is? Just ask yourself, what is one opportunity I'm missing because where my attention is? So, the way I even started using "it is what you say it is," um, I was writing songs at the time. You know, music has been a big part of my life, and I was working on a sync project. And for those of you guys who don't know what a sync project is, it's just you're preparing music for TV and film. And this project was supposed to be different. It featured different sounds. They didn't want a traditional sound. And so anytime you have to step outside of the box of what you're comfortable in, it's always tough to do. So I'm having a problem because the songs I'm making are great songs, but they just don't fit the mold. They're too different. And so my friend Anthony, I'm talking to him about my issues, and he says, um, he tells me what is our principle too. He says, your words become your world. And I said, huh? He said, your words, that becomes your world. Okay. And I thought about it. Okay, it makes sense. And that's our principle too, is your words become your world. And then he told me, it is what you say it is. It can be Peter Pan pop. It is what you say it is. You go tell them what it is. You go tell them that it's going to be successful. And it is what you say it is. And the way he spoke it into me, he had me believing it. Remember, I wasn't a believer at first, but he had me thinking, hey, this is what I say it is, right? Your words become your world. So whatever you say, whatever you do, that's what it's going to be. You can look at the Roger Bannister story, and basically he changed the way that we view running. Before Roger Bannister, it was said that no human being could run under 4 minutes, around a mile under 4 minutes. So you can't run a 4-minute mile. And for years, people bought into that. They bought into saying, okay, you can't run a mile in under 4 minutes. So it just can't be done. And then Roger Bannister comes and says, you know what? That's not the belief I have. I'm going to do it. And he did it. The first one to do it, something that was supposedly impossible. And so, what are you telling yourself? What is your world composed of? What are you verbalizing? We all know those people who say, "Well, man, It's gonna be a bad day today. Right? They're self-fulfilling prophecy. They say it's gonna be a bad day, it's gonna be a bad day. Right. But on the flip side, have you ever met some of those people who are just over the moon all the time? It seems like the world is falling apart. How are you doing? Amazing. I'm amazing right now. Where do you fall? What world are you creating? Right? What are you telling yourself? This was one of the things, one of the reasons as we were testing the hype score out, it's one of the reasons that I felt like the hype score had to be implemented and then do it in a certain way because I had just been um doing a beta test with a young athlete. And the thing, like he had amazing scores for um his identity and for impact. And so he scored a bit low on influence, which is, like your social media, etc. And that was where his focus was. And he kept saying, well, I just can't, I guess I just won't be, able to influence people to get more follows. That was the world that he was creating. He was telling himself already what it was going to be. Right. And so before before his score could change, I had to tell him, like, you got to change your story. Right. And so I'm going to ask you guys to do what I had him do, which was to rewrite one limiting sentence that you've been repeating about yourself. I'll never do what? Is it, I'll never lose weight. I'll never make that much money. Right. I'll never get that job. I'll never start that business. What have you been creating your world with? Right. So our last principle today is that your identity follows your interpretation. So what that means is the way you look at the world is how everything is built. I remember being a young Houston Oilers fan. And the biggest thing was we would always get, or the Oilers would always get to the big game and then they choke. And we've seen that, you've seen the early 90s Oilers, the late 80s Bills, early 90s Bills. It's like these teams who get into the big moments and they choke. And as I was thinking about this, I said, what if what if these teams they interpret the world that they can't do it, and then that's what happens? What if that's the interpretation? Like, hey, this is the normal time that we choke. This is the normal time that we don't get over the hump. Right? Have you seen that in your life? The people who get to the finish line and they're just like, this is I just can't do it. No, my mom and dad weren't able to do it, so that I won't be able to do it either. Right? So what is it for you? Is it a failure or is it just simply feedback? What do you see it as? Do you call it an obstacle or is it an opportunity? See, the identity is built by the meaning you repeatedly assign to life's events. So I want you to get a note card this week. And every night I want you to write one challenge and give it a new interpretation. Whatever is challenging you, go ahead and just redefine it, give it a new interpretation. Right? And then your total success test for this week. I want you to think about, if this happened for me instead of to me, how would I respond differently? Right? Over this next week, what are you choosing to call the obstacles? Right? What are you choosing to call the so-called failures? What I've learned is life isn't always fair. Life isn't always easy, but you always control the meaning. So as you're going through the world, I want the next time someone says it is what it is, I want you to remember it. No, it is what you say it is. Protect your identity, grow an influence, leave an impact. If in 1 year, everything that you said was to come true, how would your life be different? If in 5 years, it truly is what you say it is, how will your life change? Think about it. Until next time, plug into your hype, plug into your potential. I'm HypeJack, and I'll see you on the other side.